Hi, Virgo Sun and Rising. Welcome to your August 2021 Astro Update. It's Raina here. So, August is a time when the Sun is in a hidden house as the month begins. And this happens obviously every year. The Sun is in the sign before you, Leo, and the house before you is actually the 12th house. So whether this is you're listening for your sun and your solar chart or your rising sign in your natal chart, this is going to be the same. And the 12th house is a house of contemplation. It's a house of solitude. And this is the time before your solar return when you may feel that urge to go within. And when I say go within, I mean, obviously you can do that anytime, but I'm specifically talking about solitary practices, maybe being alone more, the gestation period. So the sun is here, and it's funny because this year you have the month beginning with the sun in the 12th, and also Mercury is there as well. But then you have Mars in your sign. So Mars, from late July, Mars goes into Virgo, and it's like you're rearing to go, but it's almost like your body is very energetic, but that part of yourself that is preparing for your solar return. So we could say it's your mind with Mercury and the heart of who you are, your core in this incarnation, which would be your sun sign. They are in the 12th house. So they have yet to catch up to Mars. And Mars is sometimes leading the way in terms of, I remember hearing another astrologer talk about Mars leading the way. But, well, it isn't always going to be the case that Mars is ahead of the sun. But this year it just so happens to be the case. And so there might be a bit of a clash there, but it's nothing that is not manageable if you have the information ahead of time. So knowledge is definitely power, where you can, because I'm telling you this, you can say, okay, well, I am very energetic, but I'm also not really wanting to be social right now and not really wanting to be even too much in the public eye. Maybe you take hikes in the woods or on a mountain, and you're doing walking meditation, because the 12th house can be meditation, but the first house is very much physical. It's the body. And that's like a happy medium or something like that. So so that's the backdrop. And then on 8/8, the Lionsgate portal, when our sun is aligned with Sirius, the dog star, I think it's called the dog star, if I'm not mistaken. That's why it's the dog days. By the way, the Galactic New Year begins on July 26th, because I'm recording before then. But anyway, on the 8/8 portal, we're going to have a new moon at 16 degrees of Leo. So, of all signs, Leo has this in the 12th house. So it's very spiritual. Now, I suppose the sign that has it in the 8th house is going to have, which would be Capricorn. And if you are a Virgo who has Capricorn rising, or vice versa, then you're going to have this in one of your charts in that 8th house. That's going to be very important too, because that's an area of transformation. So that can be great energy to work with in terms of personal alchemy, okay? But that is more, I would say, on the individual basis. The 12th house is like the collective soul. So I do feel that you can really get a good like new moon to experience how to heal the collective. And Pisces people, whether they know it or not, tend to be light workers. They're definitely empaths, so those two go hand in hand. So just like a little fun little factoid there about that particular new moon. And so for you, and even like if you're trying to manifest things in your 3D reality, I still think this could be good, even though it's not in your first house. In the 12th, which to me, like the womb of creation, I think it can be good for that, particularly good for that, because everything begins with consciousness. And, the first house is that physical, the body is connected to the first house. So the 12th house is the cosmos. On the 11th, we're having a transit of your ruler Mercury into your sign, Virgo. So this is very powerful for you because anytime your ruler not only does anything, but let alone is in your sign, this strengthens you. And so Virgo is a sign that is very much associated with communicating things, but at a practical level, at a level that can be utilized, not just kind of abstract ideas that may sound good or kind of challenge the mind in a sophisticated way, but they don't have necessarily a practical purpose. And so this can even, so it's no surprise that one of the areas that this may manifest is you being a teacher, or you being a some kind of a public speaker, but something like a how-to type of a person. Also, this can be something that connects with the media and, informing people. Well, I'll just, I'll leave that one alone. But yeah, this idea of giving people information about what's happening around them. And ostensibly, this is in order to improve their lives on a daily basis. So I always feel like when Mercury goes into our own sign, that it helps us in various ways, that it helps us communicate who we are, that it helps us, and by communicating who we are, if we're looking for a job and we're engaged in one of those interviews, we're able to convey a clearer picture of what we're all about when it comes to romantic situations, if you're meeting somebody new. And even if they're not like grilling you or anything like that, you still can, there can be a consistency between, who you are and who you want to be, how you want other people to understand you and what you're about. On the 16th, Venus goes into Libra. So Venus has been in this first house, and for like over 2 weeks, as the month begins, you have Venus in the first house, which is also very good for attracting, or can be particularly good for attracting people's goodwill towards you, or even attracting material resources. Venus in a particular house can mean money coming to you. Now, you would have to look at the affairs of that house to know how that will come about. When it's in the first house, it can be you just being you, that you are attracting material resources. So in some cases, it can be the way that you look. In other cases, it may be that you are promoting, like I said. You have Mars there. Yeah. That's an important point to make. You have all these planets that are going to be crowding into that first house. And by the time that we get to the 16th, so you're going to have Mercury there, you have Venus there, and you have Mars there. These are all personal planets. So it really means that you're focusing on yourself and probably promoting yourself for some reason. If that means that you're looking for employment or looking for a romantic relationship, or even just your social life, improving your social life and putting yourself out there, then I can see all of those things. But it's coming from a you type of focus. And so on the 16th, Venus goes into Libra, the sign after you, and that means that Venus is in its own domain, the second house of earned income, ruled by Taurus in the universal chart. So this is particularly good for money. And doesn't mean that when Venus isn't there that you can't make money. It means particularly good. And as we get into, as we progress, more planets will go into that second house, and you will see an emphasis begin to migrate into this practical house where you have an affinity because you're an earth sign. And so this can make you feel right at home. Venus here can be spending money on a luxury item. Sometimes I think about the signs and their attitude towards money. Maybe I'll do a special video on that, on all the signs and their attitudes towards money. I would say that Virgo is not a big spender. I wouldn't say that Virgo is one of the biggest cheapskate signs. And this is because, first of all, having Libra as your second house cusp can mean that you are someone, you have to look at that, and that will color your behavior in this particular house. And it can mean, because Libra is also like Taurus, ruled by Venus. And so Libra likes nice things. Venus can be about luxury. And so the other thing too about Virgo is that not only are you an earth sign, but you're also a mutable sign. Mutable signs are flexible. They're changeable. And of course you're ruled by Mercury, so that can make you changeable as well. And when a sign is changeable, it means that they may do things differently under different circumstances. And that might mean that sometimes you spend more money than others. I don't think you're a spendthrift sign by any stretch of the imagination, though. So you may have some kind of an item that you want to buy that's a luxury item that is not something you would typically buy, that costs a lot of money, and you may have the money to do that. If I know my Virgo peeps, it'll be something that has to do with health, like a Vitamix or a a dehydrator, something very healthy and earthy, crunchy granola type of things. Okay. On the 19th, Uranus goes retrograde at 14 degrees of Taurus, and this is another Earth sign, but in the opposite direction. Behind you. So this is going to be in your ninth house. And Uranus retrograde, I've been reading, trying to get a handle on it. That's been like a difficult, like, what does this transit mean? Because Uranus is not a personal planet. So it's like, okay, well, how does it affect us personally? And it can affect the affairs of this house. The ninth house is the house of higher education, long distance travel, God, other philosophical frameworks. And so it's all about expansion, if you want to boil it down into a nutshell. So Uranus is about breaking free from constraints. Even like a lightning bolt, doing things unconventionally, doing things suddenly, like it's an erratic planet, it has an erratic orbit, and it is unpredictable. Now, in the ninth house, when it's retrograding, it's going to be, it's not like it's going to be tamed when it's retrograding, but that whole influence is going to be inside of you. So when a planet is transiting in forward motion, it is in the outer world that it's expressing itself, or it is giving you influences from the outer world. When it retrogrades, it's going within you, and especially with the personal planets, there's like a lot of reflection, review, repair, and things like that. Well, sometimes, like Saturn could be something like that. We have to rework something, whatever. But with Uranus, it's like, for instance, since the ninth house can be these, it can be like your life philosophy, it can really stir things up and make you break from convention, even more so, because it's coming from inside of you. So it's not being imposed from the outer world. Because when I think of the ninth house, I think of dogma. So you have these religious institutions preaching to you and telling you, the do's and don'ts of a particular organized religion. Or you have the ninth house can be the law, and I see it as the actual embodiment of the law. The seventh house can be the courtroom action, but the ninth house can be the laws themselves. And you have people that are imposing these laws. But when, and you could even say like ethics, morality is, running in tandem with the laws of the land as well as the spiritual laws. So yeah, that's coming from the outside, but this is from inside of yourself. And the thing about this, and this can be a really good thing, is that you can break free of this conditioning that is being imposed. And Uranus in the ninth house, transiting your ninth house in general, Virgo, can expose you to very unusual belief systems. And I don't really I don't see Virgo as necessarily one of the most conventional of the signs, but it isn't what I would call a rebellious sign. It's somewhere in the middle. And because Virgo is an earth sign, that can lead the person to kind of follow whatever the dictates are from the authority figures, from the people who have the credentials to be able to talk about things. And we see a lot in today's world, the emphasizing of the experts. Listen to the experts. And so you may be questioning these things and coming up with your own belief system that may be quite different from how you were raised, what your partner has, what you were taught at the university. You may kind of question that. And I feel like it's always good to question. In the 60s, not that I was old enough, I was in diapers, but I still was alive. They had, a button that said, or a saying that said, question authority. It's funny, I said a button. I guess sometimes people wear buttons still, but we would say like a meme or something. But question authority. Is that, that was like, how long ago? 50 years ago? 45 years ago? And now we're like, are we really moving forward, or are we kind of regressing here? Where we never think for ourselves anymore. So the ninth house in general can be about that because it's ruled by Sag. And Sag is one of those rebellious signs. Speaking from a sun in Sagittarius and a moon in Virgo. So you can see the conflict within myself. Being being a Girl Scout, that would be the Virgo, and being more rebellious with the Sag. Okay, so that's happening. And then on the 22nd, we have a full moon at 29 degrees of Aquarius. So this is the other half of that bookend full moon set. And this one is the blue moon, 29 Aquarius. So for you, this is in the 6th house of work, the house that you rule, the house also of health and daily routines. You may be in a process of really, changing things in your life on a day-to-day basis, Virgo. So you had that first full moon in July, actually before the time of this recording. Or no, not before the time, after the time of this recording. I'm recording this before it's happening, the first one. And so you're having these back-to-back full moons in the house that you rule, and this is a practical house. This is an earth house. So I feel like this is kind of clearing the decks in a way for something to shift in your day-to-day reality. And it's coming on the same day as the sun goes into your sign. So isn't that perfectly symbolic, where it's you're having your solar return? And so you may be restructuring things. And the thing is that with Uranus retrograding in your 9th house, this may give you an even greater desire on an internal level to break free and maybe even want to travel and be a digital nomad and not have to be chained to a desk or be confined to a, what do they call those things? Cubicle. And because Uranus can rule technology. So I feel like this is something that may be in the works, not necessarily happening in August, because Uranus will go direct, I think, on around December 1st. I'm not 100% on that, but it will be retrograding for several months. And like I said, I think this is more kind of breaking you free of certain attitudes that you can then act upon, especially in 2022. And by the way, yes, this is a house. This 9th house is a house that you're going to have eclipses in, starting this November. So this does play a part beyond Uranus. This is the North Node is going to go into this house and all that good stuff. So you're going to really be focused on spiritual matters, for some people, matters of academia, but perhaps not what you signed up for. If you are like a professor, or you are some kind of, maybe you teach religion at a local community college, you may, gravitate towards some kind of far out, I don't know, maybe something with galactic information. I always think of science fiction-y types of things with Uranus because it's ahead of its time. And so I think of the starseed type of stuff. Okay. On the 30th, Mercury goes into Libra, so your mind is on your money in the second house. You might be crunching numbers. You might be, knowing Virgo, you're probably constructing a very elaborate game plan or budget. And Mars, I already mentioned that Mars is in your sign all month long. You may be more aggressive than you tend to be. I think I said once, I've drawn the ire of Virgo people more than once, which is hilarious to me. One time for calling them servants, which I was able to back up with a website description of that said that exact term. And also I think I called Virgo a wallflower once. But what I meant was that Virgo tends to be very kind of nondescript, not self-aggrandizing, like Leo, unless you have, Mars in Leo or the moon in a fire sign. That might be a little bit more, or even rising sign, because that can show up too in the way that you act. That might be a little bit more spicy, but in general, you don't necessarily need to call attention to yourself. So there's a natural humility is what I'm trying to say. And I think that's a wonderful quality. And I think that to take offense to being called humble might indicate that the person, has, constructed certain connections between people who don't toot their own horn and don't need to. That's the important thing. It's okay to be proud of your achievements, but I'm talking about people who just always have to call attention to themselves and do that kind of thing. That's not necessarily coming from a place of being secure within oneself. And I feel like there's just like a very quiet power with Virgo. And this is like waking up the sleeping giant in you, this Mars in your sign. So we'll see how that plays out. Because as I am recording this, Mars has not yet gone into your sign. And I think it's going to go in there either the 27th or the 29th of July. So there still is, a lot of you will have heard this before then, and you can anticipate that and see if you feel like you're more energetic. So anyway, I hope that this resonated with you, Virgo. If you would like me to look at your chart, I do have specials, which are double readings for special prices. One is a combo with tarot and astrology. The other is a double astrology natal chart reading. The former is called the whole enchilada, and the latter is called the deep dive reading. You can find out descriptions and more information about my different types of readings on my website, rainamoonastrology.com. The link is below. Thank you for listening. Take care. Bye.